All right. This is...
Oh, sorry.
The fuck was that? Oh, Joe. All right. So, welcome to What If Geeks. I'm John.
Hey, I'm Paul.
And this is episode 8. And we're already off to a wonderful fucking start. Okay, so I was literally just saying to Paul how cold it is in Florida right now. And I went to start the recording. And while I'm recording, I'm getting ready to talk. And all of a sudden I hear like crickets and whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck is that noise? How the hell is a cricket in here? It's like 30 degrees outside. It's Paul watching the Ghostbusters.
I had to rewatch the Ghostbusters trailer right quick.
Yeah. So there we go. So you know that we are organized.
Awesome.
That's awesome. We are your heroes. Oh, fuck. Okay. So yeah, it is really, really cold down here.
This is what passes for wintertime in Florida.
Yeah.
It's somewhere between, I think it was 40-something degrees this morning, hit the 60s today. Now, if you're listening to this somewhere else and you're knee-deep in snow...
We're sorry.
Then, yeah, and you're silently cursing us under your breath.
That's why we moved down here.
Right.
So, yeah. Because I'm from New York. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. I don't either.
Yeah, no. So you guys can keep that shit.
There's a great Facebook meme going around that Floridians are like King Leonidas tough at a Cat 5 hurricane and suddenly like the Cowardly Lion when it gets below 40 degrees.
Yeah.
That's pretty true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know I am. So, yeah, we'll get more into Florida weather later. All right, so I guess start off, we can discuss a little bit like what we've seen in the news.
Yep.
I can tell you the first thing, well, obviously, the Ghostbusters trailer that interrupted my initial intro. First, it's awesome. I loved it. It's a tease. It's not a trailer. It's just a quick tease. They literally announced the movie, and then the next day they dropped the tease.
Yep.
Online. And what'd you think?
It's good. I saw the brief picture of it before where you just see the back of kind of the what looks like the old Ecto-1. But watching it just with the kind of lightning and the redone sort of theme song in the background and go in and then you just see the back of the Ecto-1. That's one of those ones where when it says 2020, I'm like, okay, that could come out right now.
Yeah. And they kind of like touch on a few things there, like with the music from the very beginning in the library. You know, you get like that kind of feel. Yep. That was really cool. And I read another article today about like little things that you missed, like that. You might have missed it. Well, if you missed that, then you didn't watch Ghostbusters. But there was some ectoplasm on the fence as you went in. I didn't see that the first time. Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Are they going to do? Is it right after number 2? Take some time off. Like, are we assuming that the Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones one didn't happen?
We're going to get into that. No, so from what I read, now the director is the son of the original director.
Right.
And you guys can throw a name in there because I don't know his name. I didn't write it down because I'm prepared. So this is supposed to be...
Jason Reitman.
Thanks. There you go.
Son of Ivan Reitman.
Since he literally had it open. Yep. Thanks. God. Fact checker, help. Right. So he said that this is when he announced it, he said this is going to be like what happened in the 80s happened then, and this is now. So all this time has passed. Now you see Ecto-1 in a barn, so we're going to spoil it anyway. You see Ecto-1 in the barn, so you don't know, is that one of the Ghostbusters that's working on it? Is somebody who bought it at an auction or whatever, whatever. So you just know that the 80s happened, and now this is present day.
Yeah.
So, and then, they're pretty much ignoring the all-female Ghostbusters, which is kind of what I wanted to get into. The first thing I read was right after the trailer came out, Leslie Jones came out swinging a bunch of hate on it, and so I was getting ready to come into this podcast like just swinging back. But then I literally, while I was sitting here writing my show notes, that I read another tweet that she threw out there. So basically, she came out initially saying like it was, F the women that made the, basically they're saying F the women that made this, and it's something Trump would do or whatever. She's pulling in politics and whatever, which we try not to do unless it's funny. There's a bunch of shit that she was talking, and then she kind of backed it up, and because a bunch of people jumped in her shit,
right?
So, rightfully so. She said all she meant was when this one comes out in 2020, and it does well, and she admitted it will. She thinks people are going to say like, "Well, okay, boys are better." Like they're going to take that kind of attitude, and okay, and that kind of hurts her feelings, or whatever. It hurts her heart, and I get it. The stuff I've seen her in, I've enjoyed her. I like her comedy. She's funny. Mm-hmm. All that being said, though, as far as the last Ghostbusters, I can't talk tonight. The last Ghostbusters movie that came out, you can't even say, okay, you want to be politically correct. It is the all-female Ghostbusters. I think you're taking it too far. It's Ghostbusters. Right. Okay, I watched it. I enjoyed it. It was cool, but nobody asked for it. Nobody wanted it. Everybody wanted Ghostbusters 3.
Right.
Nobody wanted that shit at all. So this is a sequel that all the fans and everybody else that even remotely knows Ghostbusters wanted.
Are we sure that none of them will be in it? Are we sure Leslie Jones is not in it? Are we sure Melissa McCarthy's not in it? Are we sure that none of that cast is in it? Are we sure that they don't play any part in it? I mean, she's going on the premise that because it's Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, that it can't be them in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know that to be true.
Right. Now, no, we don't know. And that's going back to, okay, when they first made this last one, that movie didn't even know what it wanted to be. It was the first teaser came out. It kind of tied it into the 84 Ghostbusters, mm-hmm. Kind of like it was part of that universe somehow. It was like, I forget what the wording was, but it made you feel like it was what this new one's going to be, like all these years later, right? That's what that trailer, or the teaser, kind of, or the poster, or whatever it was, like this happened, and then the new ones, or something like that, right? And then the movie comes out, and it's nothing like that. It's just a retelling of the same movie, just with women or whatever. And then again, like okay, newer tech or whatever, and it was cool, but it didn't. It was kind of flip flopping around what it was going to do, So nobody knew what it was supposed to be when it came out,
right?
Which I think was the biggest problem. Which again, when there were like a handful of movies that like you can't touch, like this is one of them. When the fans want a sequel, a proper sequel, I'd say like The Godfather, something like that. Certain ones you can't touch,
right.
And this is unfortunately. You got wrapped up into touching that one, and you can't. But as far as like what you just asked, are they going to be? Is there a possibility for them to be in it? Sure, because nobody knows anything about it except for it's now.
We're not even sure that Bill Murray's going to be in it. I mean, I haven't read that for sure he's in it. Dan Aykroyd's in it. We don't know that yet.
I read one thing where one article kind of threw out there real quick that all three of them were coming back, but everything else I read. There's nothing concrete yet. Mm-hmm. However, they're supposed to be. That's the heavy rumor is they're all in talks. They're all ready to come do it, whatever. And with it being the son of the original director, I'm sure they're going to come back.
Yeah.
But
they've got a big problem because Harold Ramis is dead.
And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So as far as the all men comment, Harold Ramis is dead.
Right.
Why can't you have a female replacement? Or could this be, again, all these years have passed, could this be them, like the old Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, chance to properly hand off?
Right.
Could that be it?
Yeah.
I think so.
It's a little too early to get really pissed about this thing, I think.
Yeah, literally the trailer dropped and you're losing your shit.
Right.
So,
it's not, like you said, it's not even a real trailer. It's just a teaser. Yeah. All it is, like you could have shot this in half a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I'm excited for it. Again, I get where she's coming from. I kind of jumped down off of the bigger soapbox and came down to the littler one because I was like, yeah, we still have to talk about it because it's in the news.
Yep.
But it actually kind of brings me to like a subcategory that I'm sure we'll flesh out throughout the life of this damn podcast. But it's movies and remakes where they just change gender or race or whatever for whatever, just because, you know. There are certain times that, you know, I don't really mind it, and then there's other times where you just don't do it. You know, I don't know how you feel about it.
I know that comics have done it. We may have talked about this before. Comics have done it a couple times just to try to increase book sales, right? You're going to change Spider-Man from Peter Parker to Miles Morales. You're going to change Iron Man from Tony Stark to the African-American teenage girl.
Yeah. Just recently. Riri.
Yeah. You're going to change Thor for a little while was
Jane Foster.
Yeah. And not even like Thorette or Lady Thor, Beta Ray Bill, like just Thor was just a woman for a little while.
Yeah.
Not all that long ago. And so that happens just to kind of open the thing up to a new audience. I don't mind it.
It depends on how it's done.
Right.
Yeah. Because like the, what you said, Miles Morales, that story was well done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you go back and you read the comics, but, and even Marvel kind of bit itself in the ass not too long ago when they did all these more recent ones after Miles with the Lady Thor and Riri Williams and all that. Yeah. They went too far in one direction and all the fans lost their minds and they were like, okay, maybe we should find a middle ground here or somewhere. So they kind of came back on it and your older heroes who were, well, what everybody knew in the movies anyway, were there now, right? I'm talking more like the female Ghostbusters. Like, why? Just because. Okay, now we're going to do the same movie with women. The Fantastic Four, while I love Michael B. Jordan, they just changed Johnny Storm to a black guy because we have to have you know a diverse cast. Now the way they said it in the whole, you know, the stepbrother sister thing, whatever. Okay, sure, yeah, I get it, but when you're talking about like the Fantastic Four, like the original family,
right?
You know, that's one of the ones that you don't mess with. You know, you leave it alone. The Dark Tower, Idris Elba. Mm-hmm. All right, again, this is coming from like one of the biggest Stephen King nerds in the world, right? I read all of them. I saw the book illustrations in the book. Roland was a white guy. He was an old white guy.
Right.
You know, I think we even had this conversation before, right? So, yes, because I told you if you read all the way through it, there was a way that I made it okay in my own headcanon that it was now Idris Elba. But just that, like, while I love Idris Elba, and even in that role, the movie wasn't really that great, but he was really good. He was like one of the best parts of that movie.
Right.
You know? But there was no reason to make him Idris Elba when you could have had someone else do it. You know, you get like Russell Crowe or somebody that's got that grizzled, older, world-weary kind of thing, you know,
right.
like that. Just some things like that, you know. I've seen so many of them. Like they took was the old Patrick Dempsey one, the Can't Buy Me Love,
right?
And they made Love Don't Cost a Thing with Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon, yeah.
Nick, stop. I know you were young and you needed the money. I made that excuse a couple times too, but
those pictures are still out there.
Yeah, yeah.
It was before social media, so you're fine.
I'm good. They're hard copy. But yeah, so and literally the same exact movie. You just change like one or two little things, and then here,
right?
Really,
repackage.
Yeah, which actually kind of bleeds into the whole constant remakes and whatever. You know, like, do you really need this remake? It goes into that conversation too. You know. So, I don't know. Yeah, this is one of my big pet peeves.
There are a few good ideas in Hollywood, apparently, because we're remaking Footloose, and, you know, there's a ton of others that were good movies. Like, why do we need a new Footloose? The first one was really good. Like, there's no need to remake Footloose.
Yeah, especially not in today's day and age. I don't think that dancing is going to save a town in 2018 or now 2019. I don't get it. But, yeah. So, so you got anything? The other news story I think that was huge in the last day or two is Black Panther
nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm really excited about.
Yeah. The Academy Awards are out, nominations are out, and Black Panther not wins, but nominated for Best Picture, which I think is the first comic book movie to get a nod in one of those categories. Now, a bunch of them have won things and nominated for things like set design and costume and score and all that stuff for the visual and audio parts of those awards. Heath Ledger got a posthumous Oscar nomination, but no comic movie. No comic movie has hit Best Picture.
No, this is the first.
I think that's good.
For the genre, it's great.
Yeah.
And for Black Panther as a whole, just being, African American movie, it's great.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it makes it. It should. I mean, it was just an awesome freaking movie.
Yeah. But let me ask you this: was it the best comic movie of 2018? Is it better than? So here's, I get it. I also agree that I'm happy that it's nominated. I think it was really, really good movie. The cast is amazing. The story of Wakanda is very cool. I just don't know if it was the best comic book movie last year.
To me, no.
Yeah.
No. Just only because, well, one, it falls prey to one of my huge complaints is when it comes down to your villain, at the end of the movie, you're just fighting a mirror image of yourself.
Right.
Which, and I get it, there's a lot of that duality in comics and everything. But we've seen it since Iron Man all the way through. I mean, just come on. You do something better. Now, the overall story of, if you haven't seen it, I don't know who you are, was Killmonger being left, an illegitimate and whatever, and he finally figures out who he is, and he shows up. That is a really, really good story. Yep. So that part is cool. Now, that fighting for the throne and everything, okay, cool, but it really just becomes Iron Man again, where he's fighting Ironmonger. So,
and there's a bit of the trope of while they're having the battle over who's going to become king, and it looks like he's thrown off the cliff, and you're like, well, this movie's not over. I know Black Panther can't die this way. So what happened? How was he saved? And then you go through he was hit the snow, and because it was cold, and he saved him, and someone nurses him back to health, and he comes back and says, "No, the fight's not actually over." I mean, that was done in a Green Arrow episode in season 2 or 3, I forget which.
When he was fighting race.
Right. Yeah. And so it's, again, happy that it won. I hope it wins, because I think for comic movies, it will give it some legitimacy. Although the box office take of that one hit over $1 billion, Aquaman's at $1 billion. Yeah. I think comic book movies are pretty legit now, but this would add something to it for it to win Best Picture. Yeah,
and I think it really opened up a lot of people's eyes too. But as far as going back to best movie, no, because I honestly think Infinity War was the best superhero movie, if not one of the top movies of 2018. Yeah. Period. I mean, 2018 was a killer year for movies, and then I forget if I actually said anything last week when we were talking, but 2019 is just it's insane. Like when we went through it, did I tell you about the text from Heather? Mm-mm. She texted me a list. I guess she was looking for a movie to go see with Noah like a week ago, and she's got a whole sheet of paper there with just this is ridiculous. She says and it's like about 15, 16 movies just between like January and like June. Right. I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're just halfway through the year. You forgot this and this and this and that, right? I said, those are just the movies that I want to see. Right. Never mind what you might want to see. It's like 2019 is insane. Yeah. We got one of those Cinemark passes, or we belong to the Cinemark. Yeah, which is cool. You get like the one free ticket, but Cinemark is so far from the house. It's over in the central area that we're like, well, let's go check out the other areas around here and see if we can find a cheaper option, because it's gonna cost us an arm and a leg to go see all these damn movies. Right. But I think Infinity War was sorry, and then I'll let you go. Infinity War was the fact that it was the culmination of 20-something movies, 10 years, and they managed to pull all that shit off. And I don't think I found anything to complain about in the movie. I was shocked, that they actually got the whole thing done. And that to me, that makes it like the best superhero movie of 2018. Yeah. Just the fact that you were able to build all the way up to this and then hit it out of the park.
Yeah. If Black Panther wins, I think it'll be one of the first times that I've seen the movie that wins Best Picture in I don't know how many years. I don't get to the movies often enough now that I have 2 kids, and that I'm going to go see, I'm sure La La Land was a great movie. Nothing about that says, we're going to have to get a babysitter and do all this stuff to go see that movie. It's
right.
Not doing
it. It's just, that's one of those that's like not my wheelhouse. If it happens to show up on cable and I'm home, well, until I...
And all the other channels are out.
Yeah,
and,
until I kill cable.
Right.
But, because that's going away soon. But, I don't... There's only a handful of movies outside of our smaller genre that, like, I bring up every once in a while that we talk about. But, like, when we get into horror, we included horror because, we're both fans of horror. But, like, you get into, like, I love all the older mobster movies like Godfather,
Goodfellas,
A Bronx Tale, yeah. Goodfellas. Right? I love all those, and we can get into some of those one day when we got nothing else to talk about. But we'll get into random BS, talking about whatever different subjects. But yeah, there's all kinds of movies that I love to watch, but La La Land is just not in there
right.
for me. Sorry.
Or what's the movie that won Best Picture a couple years ago that was a silent film? Like, it was about a silent film, or may have been a silent. I don't know. I forget what that was called. Someone will tell us.
I don't know. I didn't see it. Yeah,
Put it in the
will
comments.
Tell us.
Put it in the comments.
By the time we actually get enough listeners to know what the hell that movie was,
yeah.
It'll be next year, and then somebody will be like, "Oh yeah, it was Bumbersnickel." So, I bet you heard that drink on there. That'd be nice. Another thing I read today, and then we can get into our main topic. But I read today that Marvel is going to show Endgame early to terminally ill man in Australia.
Right.
Like, I guess he posted something about being a big fan and thinking he was going to hold out until April.
Don't spoil it, dude.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Apparently, like, he's weeping. Like, there's like somebody he knows somebody who knows somebody who knows Chris Hemsworth, and they pulled some strings, and he's going to get to see it early.
That's awesome. Did that happen too for Infinity Wars? Right? There was some guy or kid who was terminally ill that got to see it early. I think they did that too. That's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad they're doing it.
Did. Yeah, it happened in Infinity War. So they apparently, I think Marvel's just seeking these people out now. It's
right.
Like, who wants to see it? Who's dying? But I feel for the guy. Sorry you're going through that if you ever happen to hear this. But I'm glad you get to see it because and that's it's a nice closing chapter before he succumbs to his illness, that he gets to see how it all ends.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. But it reminded me of the movie Fanboys. Do you remember that movie? It was going back a few years ago.
Was that a Kevin Smith movie?
I want to say he was involved in it. I think he shows up in it.
Right.
But it's basically same scenario, but it's a bunch of friends, younger kids, like probably teens, ish, teens to 20, whatever. But their one friend is terminally ill, and he doesn't think he's going to make it until Phantom Menace. So they go on a trek to Skywalker Ranch.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about.
So and that was actually probably one of the funnier movies I've seen in quite a while. It's really funny. Just the little nods to geek culture that are just great.
Yep.
The Star Wars fans and the Trekkies getting in a fight at the convention. That's
awesome.
Phenomenal. Yeah. So, okay. What else? Do you got anything else?
Nope. I think we're going to get into kind of the movie of the week. The one thing we wanted to both watch that's out on Netflix now. And because it's so sort of deep and so many choices, I thought it would make for an interesting conversation.
So to continue this podcast, turn to page 42.
Right. If you want to hear what Paul and John have to say, turn to page 42.
All right. So obviously, we're talking about Bandersnatch. Black Mirror on Netflix. One, I've been singing the praises of Black Mirror for a while now. I think I've told you repeatedly that it's like Twilight Zone and Outer Limits on current or future tech on steroids. It's crazy, but it's dark and it's really cool. You watch those episodes, and it like blows your mind. Yeah. And then go ahead. Let's talk about Bandersnatch.
So they have this movie called Bandersnatch, and it's really deep because it is about If you've ever done the choose your own adventures, if you're of our age, in your 40s, you remember those choose your own adventure books when we were kids that you could, if you wanted to, sometimes they were dungeon related. If you wanted to go into the cave, go to page 42. If you chose a different path, go to page 35. And you got to select what you wanted to do. And so Netflix has made this movie that you get choices in what the main character does. And it is about a young man named Stefan. It takes place in 1984. He's a video game designer, and he really likes this giant book called Bandersnatch, which is not a real book, just made for the movie. It is a choose your own adventure, and he is making a video game based on the book. And so he's making a choose your own adventure video game. And as you go through it, and we're going to spoil the crap out of this, so if you haven't seen it, go see it.
If you haven't seen the movie, turn to page 1.
Right.
Go back and watch it and then come back.
Yeah.
Pause this and then come back and see us.
You hold the remote and you get to make choices in Stefan's life. Everything from what he eats in the morning for breakfast to what he listens to different things throughout him trying to make this game. And I watched it the first time. I watched it a couple times. And I watched it the first time and I took notes on everything I chose. And then I got different endings and I was like, well, let me try it again. And so I deleted, I went back and Netflix says, if you're going to watch this again, it's going to, remove all your choices and you have to start over. So then I chose the opposite series. You have two choices,
Sure.
and you have about 5 or 10 seconds to choose, and a little timer runs down at the bottom. I chose the other serial, the other thing to listen to, both on the bus and then later on when Colin tells you what 2 records to get.
Yeah.
I chose the other one.
Okay.
I chose talk to the counselor this time about your mom instead of keeping silent. I made all the other different choices. And what's interesting is as you go through, you start to pick up on, and it took me not the second time through to realize in different places they're telling you, I don't feel like I'm in control. The author of the book.
Oh, you didn't pick up on that? I picked up on it right away. It was amazing.
Probably the second time he says it in the psychiatrist's office, I'm like, oh, did he just say, I feel like I'm not making my own choices? I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. And then you do things like, and I didn't notice in Colin's rant, if you follow Colin, there's a scene where Stefan's starting to lose it as he makes the game, right?
Yeah.
And so his dad says, you need to go to the therapist's office. You can choose to go in, or you can choose, he sees Colin, who is like a famous video game producer at the time, and you can go follow him and go hang out with him. Yeah. And then you do a couple things and he starts in this rant. And I didn't, the first time listening through to that rant, he tells you everything that's about to happen later on. Uh-huh. But I had to hear that a second time to pick up on some of that. Nice. So I did all the different stuff, and to figure out, and as it progressed, I'm like, there's no good ending to this. This does not end well. It doesn't matter what you choose. This does not end well for Stefan.
Yeah, no. Every time.
Or Dad.
Yeah, no. And one thing I really loved about it was the concept. And throughout the life of our podcast and whatever else we do with YouTube or whatever, our entertainment network, I'm always going to say, because of the lives that we've lived, if you would have told me at this particular time, I'd be seeing this at this particular time, I'd have told you you're an ass. You know, right. I'm constantly going to say that because technology has just blown us away so rapidly in our lifetime. You know, when we talk about video games, that's a perfect example. You know, but you go back to these books that we used to read, and now you've got it on TV. Yep. You know, I was trying to wrap my head around it when it first announced it. It came out December 28th. It was the end of December it came out. But like any good procrastinator, I didn't watch it until about a week ago. So, and you were like, did you watch it?
Right.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I couldn't figure out, like, how are you going to do this? At least, okay, I get it's a remote control. You know, you got to use your TV remote and you choose. And that's fine. That much I can get because you're watching it through a streaming service is going to ask you questions anyway, so you always use your remote. So that concept is good. For me, I was like, how are they going to do, like, once you've made a choice if you want to backtrack or if you hit the end. Now you got to start all the way at the beginning again, and it doesn't do that. There are times in there where, okay, you fucked this up, and it's gonna rewind back and or it's gonna kick you right off in another spot like where you've already been. Like, okay, now what do you want to do? And it's gonna give you two choices, and then if it like whatever is common in between that spot and where you died or whatever, it kind of like does a fast forward kind of thing. Yeah, it kind of just cut scenes.
Dad locks the door. You see Colin. Yep.
Yeah. Like you know this. So we're not gonna fuck around with this. And it's just bip all the way down. And I was really impressed with that. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed it.
Did you do the? you hit an ending pretty quickly into it if you accept the offer to make the game there.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, you're done, and you make a crap game.
You sold out, you sucker.
And there's a couple other ways that you make a crap game. There's a couple different places where you either end up with a crap game or Stefan goes to jail. And you make a great game, but he ends up in jail. And there's no two, or he dies.
That one. I don't want to ruin it. Well, I know we're spoiling the hell out of it. Yeah. So, I know you've done enough of them to where I'm pretty sure you've already done it. Once he starts like kind of going back in time in his dream or whatever, okay, that point where there's the whole thing with the rabbit, when he saves the rabbit or when he keeps the rabbit, that ending, I was like, as soon as it started, I'm like, oh shit. Yeah.
Where he's on the train?
With Mom? I'm like, well, I just killed him.
Yeah. Well, you can kill him. You can kill him sooner too if you follow Colin and go to his house and party with him and take the LSD.
Yeah, Colin took a jump.
So I did. Colin took a jump, and then when I replayed the second time, I'm like, what would happen if Stefan takes the jump? And Stefan goes, splat. Yeah. But the cool thing that I really liked too is if you make Colin take the jump, he leaves right. He goes over, smush. You walk out. When you go into the place the next day, even though you can later on, there's times to run it back.
He's not there.
He's still not there.
Yeah. So either way, he was going to kill himself.
Yeah.
Or he was going to jump off that.
Yep.
Yeah, because he thinks there's other realities and whatever. So,
But he goes into the whole. He goes into the whole program and control, which is if you do a certain number of things later, when you find out that the dad might be mentally controlling you. Did you get that part? You can enter that as one of the passwords to open the safe. And then what was cool is if you do toy, the top part of the safe opens and there's the bunny. If you do PAX, the bottom part of the safe opens, and there's some files and some other stuff. But it's not the same part of the thing opening up, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, they definitely gave it some thought.
Yeah. But then as you're going through, you're left with it. You're facing the two choices. Hit Dad with the thing or back up. I'm like, let's just see what happens. Let's hit Dad with the thing, and then pow, you're like, uh-oh. Yeah.
So apparently, I haven't really seen any articles in this vein, but I've heard a couple people saying that they've seen articles where people are complaining about it, it's encouraging suicide and this and that, whatever. I'm like, okay, look. For anyone, I mean, this goes back to, well, ironically, when we were kids and reading these Choose Your Own Adventure books, it goes back to the Dungeons and Dragons shit, it's encouraging devil worship and people are killing each other in the woods and, our kids are going to be, no, either you're mature enough to handle fiction, or you're not. And no matter what they give you, it could be all gummy bears and rainbows and shit. You're still gonna wind up on a freaking clock tower somewhere someday.
Right.
It's just people are twisted, and I'm so sick of people blaming.
Correct.
Well, ironically, it's everything I love, so apparently I'm really fucked up. But it's like Dungeons and Dragons and
Ozzy,
heavy metal and movies and video games, and that's the problem. No, you know what the problem is? The problem's you. How about you raise your freaking kid the right way? That's the problem. But I've already heard that there's complaints about it, whatever, and I'm like, you know what? To me, especially for Netflix, with going forward into the next year or so, with all the other streaming options out there, I know Netflix is kind of like, they're looking for the next new thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see someone outside of Black Mirror do something like this.
Yeah.
I want to see what else you can do with this, because now you've got it. You did it. Because apparently they tried it with some of the kids' programs. I don't
There's
know
a
what,
Netflix story. Minecraft Story Mode is on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
My son really likes that, which I think is the same sort of thing.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try it with
Obviously not as dark.
The creepers coming.
I really liked the overall theme, though, that there is only a limited amount of control that you really have.
Yeah.
That fate in different ways is going to make those choices for you. And while you think you have control over certain things, you really don't. I thought that was a cool storyline. I really liked that. I really thought it was cool that you can either make a good game or sort of get screwed up.
Yeah.
There's no good option for him, and that's just how it is sometimes. Some of that creativity takes a level of madness, and you can take the medicine, right? When she gives you the increase, you can take it, and then you make a bad game. So you have choice.
Did you? Okay, so now did you hit the part where you're in her office and he's telling her about, okay, someone from the future is controlling me or whatever? I'm like, well, this is pretty boring. And she asked, do you want action now? Or whatever? And I was like, hell yeah. Next thing you know, like, they're all fighting and shit. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I was like, this took a turn.
It was so funny.
I think the two choices there are or hell yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah or hell yeah. And I went with hell yeah.
I did too. And then she whips out the two fighting sticks. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm wondering what was. Now I gotta go back because I'm wondering because the way she's looking at him and the way she says, well, they'd want some action. I'm wondering if she's like gonna seduce him or some shit in the other one. Like if it takes that kind of turn. Which
I need to go back and do that.
So check it out. For
entertainment purposes.
Yeah, entertainment purposes.
Research purposes. Only.
Research, that's it. Yeah,
that's right.
Entertainment was admitting something.
Right.
Don't do that. So Netflix, Black Mirror, you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, you killed it.
Do it again. It fit perfectly in the Black Mirror vein. How dark everything is there. If you're not watching Black Mirror, you're sleeping. Go watch it. It's great. That's about all I can say on that one. I hope they do more. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, they can't do enough of those. I know there's a couple seasons. I haven't seen every one of them, but it starts off amazing with the Prime Minister F's a pig as the very first one, which I think gets it off to an amazing
You have to
start.
get past the first one.
Yeah.
The first one gives you a real, what am I getting myself into kind of vibe. But once you get past that one, it kind of settles down a little bit. But after that, it's really, really cool.
Yeah. So what do you want to do? You want to do a Florida man story? What do you got?
Oh God!
You got a Florida man?
I think I didn't find anything Florida man because I was too busy getting ready to yell at Leslie Jones, and so sorry, Leslie.
I got a Florida man. So
okay,
if you haven't heard of these, Florida man is a sort of subgenre / meme of crazy stuff that only happens in Florida.
He's our superhero.
And he's the worst superhero. And typically the crazy stories happen in either Germany or Florida. And there's no sort of shortage of these guys. The story of, you told one a couple weeks ago where the person was found with syringes of drugs in their butt, and they claimed they're not mine.
They're not mine. Yeah.
And I don't know how they got there.
Yeah.
That guy's in Florida. The guy that in the McDonald's reached across the counter and started hitting the worker, the girl working behind the counter because there were no straws.
Yes,
that guy was in
I
Florida.
remember that one. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And so this one, and so we want to talk about Florida man as often as we can.
Just let you know what we're dealing with on a regular basis.
Yeah, and so I've got Florida a slightly different take, so that we're not excluding women. Florida woman Deanna Seltzer attacked her parents for refusing to take her to Outback Steakhouse.
I remember that one.
She beat them because they refused to take her to Outback. She picked up a knife. Let's see. She became so enraged over the denial to take her to dinner that she started turning over furniture, smashing through glass, and punched her mother in the chest and arms. When her father attempted to break up the scuffle, Seltzer picked up a knife and started chasing and threatening to kill her parents. they're in their 60s, and she's like in her 30s. She's not like a kid.
No, she's a kid. Yeah,
she's old enough to know better.
Yeah, but Outback, damn.
I want cheese fries now. If you guys don't take me for a bloomin' onion, I will effing kill you.
That bloomin' onion is fucking good. I tell you that. Oh my god. So, all right, yeah. You know what? On that note, we're gonna keep doing Florida man stuff because I just love the state we live in. I don't know how they managed to lump them all into one area, but holy shit, they're here.
It's like all the crazy people just descended down here.
Yeah, it's like gravity, but to Florida. Yeah. It's crazy gravity. So on that note, I think that's going to wrap up this one.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's a nice short episode because we keep rambling on. So that's going to do it. Let us know what you guys think. Watch Bandersnatch. Check it out. Let us know what you guys think. If you want to see more of that kind of stuff. What you think Netflix can do in general to keep up now. And let us know what you think of the Ghostbusters trailer and the everything else we talked about. The whatever the hell that was. I lost my train of thought there. So yeah, there you go.
Hit us up on Facebook at What If Geeks. What else do we have? Do we have Twitter?
We've got Twitter, Instagram. We've got all of it, and now we are finally live on iTunes. Well, not live. Sorry, we're gonna figure that shit out too.
We'll be on iTunes here pretty soon.
We're on iTunes.
We're on Stitcher.
And Stitcher. So check us out.
Hit us.
What If Geeks?
Email whatifgeeks@gmail.com.
Yep. Give us a shout. Let us know what else you want to hear so we don't run out of silly shit to talk about. All right.
All right, man.
Check you guys later.
See ya.